officially start the meeting. Welcome everybody. A reminder to switch your mobile phones to silent or off, please. I'd also like to remind everyone that we are currently in a pre-election period. The public and council should therefore avoid making any statements or comments which relate to the forthcoming by-election or any politically sensitive issues, and I'm sure you're all eager to make such statements, but you have to wait until after the pre-election period, please. This Cabinet meeting is being filmed and the recording will be available on the Council's website. The images and the sound recording may also be used for training purposes within the Council. Anybody speaking that does not wish to be filmed should make themselves known to the camera operator. Reminder that people need to switch on their microphones when they wish to talk, and we'll go through the introductions for the Cabinet. Councillor Hodge.
Yes, thank you. I'm Councillor Lucy Hodge, Cabinet Member for Sustainable Transport Delivery and Ward Councillor for Lansdowne Ward.
Thank you, Lucy. Councillor Warren.
Councillor Sarah Warren, Cabinet Lead for Sustainable Bath and North East Somerset, and Councillor for Bath, Avon North Ward.
Thank you, Sarah. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Chair. Cabinet Member for Resources and Councillor for Lansdowne Ward.
Thank you, Mark. Councillor May.
Thank you, Chair. I'm glad you remembered my name. I'm Paul May. I'm the Cabinet Member for Children, and I represent Pensford and Whitchurch Village.
Thank you, Paul. Councillor Hurst. We'll get that fixed for you. Councillor McCabe.
Hi, I'm Councillor Matt McCabe. I'm the Cabinet Member for the Built Environment, Housing and Sustainable Development, and I'm the Ward Councillor for Bath Avon South.
Thank you, Matt. Councillor Rigby.
Amanda Rigby, Councillor for Baswick and Cabinet Member for Communications and Community.
Thank you, Councillor Rigby. And Councillor Hurst will give you a second go. Thank you, Joel. We'll move to the evacuation procedure.
Thank you, Chair. If the continuous alarm sounds, you must evacuate the building and proceed to the assembly point. From this room, you follow the illuminated green signs to the exit using either the marble staircase at the end of the building nearest to Bath Abbey or the main staircase. Please do not use the lifts. The assembly point for this building is in Orange Grove on the green outside Brown's Restaurant. There is an evacuation chair for use by disabled people who so wish in the corridor outside the Council Chamber Public Gallery. Alternatively, the area at the top of the marble staircase has been designated as a safe refuge where persons needing assistance should assemble. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've got apologies for absence of Councillor Baldwin and Councillor Roper, duly noted. Declaration of interest, I've received none. Are there any from the floor? There are none. Okay. Urgent business agreed by the Chair, there is none. Questions from the public and councillors, there's none been received for this meeting. So I'll move straight to the statements from the public. And David, welcome.
So, David Edgeworth, South West Transport Network, but also I'm the Member for Passengers and Equalities on the West of England Mirror Combined Authority. Bus Advisory Panel for and with North Somerset. So I'll make my context in some of the knowledge I've got there and some of the knowledge from the Department of Transport, who I actually do some work with on the railways. So, where are we? As far as local plans are concerned, we need to make sure that when we develop more housing, jobs, employment, and economic growth, which is the big target of UK government, that they're on sustainable transport corridors. So we don't want a scattergun approach in Bath and North East Somerset or in North Somerset, South Gloucestershire or Bristol. It's one conurbation and North Somerset's going to join the authority. But equally it's how we work with cross-border with Wiltshire, Somerset and Gloucestershire. But in Baines itself, then the development needs to be either on the edge of the city, in the city where you can serve it by sustainable transport, walking and cycling. And that's controversial in a World Heritage City, but that's probably the best place to be going. And then your next options are along transport corridors. So we've got the transport corridor that goes through Peasdown, St John, and down through Radstock and Midsummer Norton, and on towards Wales and Chilcompton. Now, I know that Somerset Council are busy wanting to develop equally around the Radstock Midsummer Norton area, and that does make sense. I know it's controversial, but that does make absolute sense, because that's a site of services and where you can put more employment, more investment, working together with Unitary Somerset. So that needs to have the bus services beefed up on these bus priority measures. It needs more money from the Mayor, money from WECA to actually make sure we can deliver that. And equally, you can look at what you do on the A37, and that's where it becomes controversial, because do you do things at Whitchurch, do you not do things at Whitchurch? But that is where the growth, and that's where the issue in the North Somerset local plan is about developing around Bishopsworth and around that area and around Long Ashton. So it's about making sure, and then there's the Bristol-Bath corridor in Keynsham and Saltford and the areas to Brislington. But those are where the bus corridors can be, those are where your rail corridors are, and that's really where we need to go. Going out in the countryside, in the Chew Valley, doesn't actually do anything for communities, doesn't actually get jobs improve for young people. And I remind everybody today that we have a housing crisis in the West of England Combined Authority. We have a housing waiting list in Bath, and we must build homes, and that's why the government's looking at the targets. But we've got to work closely with Wiltshire, Somerset and Gloucestershire, Highways England, National Rail and the bus operators through franchising or through enhanced corporate partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Sensible comments as per normal. We will move to consideration of matters referred to by policy development and scrutiny bodies. There is none. So straight to the main context of the meeting, which item 9, reset local plan options document. Councillor McCabe to move, please.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you to Dave Redgwell for pointing out the enormous importance of how transport fits with the development of the local plan. I'd also like to start by thanking officers, particularly planning policy officers, who put in so much effort in what is a slightly compacted timescale to produce this document so that we can get back out to consultation. And also, although the planning and policy officers who have led, officers from all over the council have inputted into what we have before us. So I thank you. My thanks to all of them. Colleagues, as you will recall, we launched an options consultation last year, which went well as we searched for solutions to the housing challenge set by the previous government. After our consultation had been completed, there was a change of government, and this resulted in a new housing calculator being brought forward. The new calculator dropped the previous urban uplift and introduced instead a new affordability uplift. And I understand this change of direction because I recognise that there is an affordability crisis in Bath and across our region. We do need to consider how a calculator like this is applied, because the result for Baines is a more than doubling of our housing target, from building 700 houses per year to 1,500, or 27,000 new homes over the next 18 years. This doubling left us with no choice other than to reset our options document, issue a new call for sites, and essentially begin again. Although I should emphasise that everyone who submitted evidence last year will have their responses included for assessment again this time round. The doubling also created an immediate problem of halving our 5-year land supply. And why is that important? Well, when the government sets housing targets, we have a couple of options. We could write to the Secretary of State and say we're going to let the market decide what housing and where it goes. Or, and this is what the government prescribes, we plan for housing growth in the places and with the infrastructure we want via a local plan. But in order for our local plan to be fully functional, it must be supported by a 5-year land supply, i.e. we must be able to show what land will be released when for housing over the plan period to meet the numbers set by government. So doubling our housing target has reduced our land supply by half to 2.7 years. This leaves us vulnerable to speculative development. And we will be vulnerable until we have secured our new local plan. So if you believe that we should be planning and managing for growth, then keep listening. Bath and North East Somerset Council's new local plan will update the core strategy, the placemaking plan and the local plan partial update, and establish our planning framework against which all planning decisions will be made in Bath and North East Somerset to 2043. The options document sets out the spatial options for the local plan. Now, most of these are sites put forward by developers, but with 4 large sites being brought forward by the council. All these sites now need to be tested against local knowledge, and that is the local evidence from our residents, and that's what we need. So let's consider what we learned from last year. The options finding report highlighted that overall respondents were generally supportive of the council's local plan priorities and objectives. In terms of housing, there was a general consensus among respondents that there is a need for more affordable housing in the area, particularly for young people and families. However, concerns were raised around the impact of new developments on the local environment, on local infrastructure, and a number of respondents called for more sustainable and more environmentally friendly approaches to housing development. So, at the very outset of this reset, we made the decision that scattering 27,000 houses across Bath and North East Somerset was not an option. If we are to fulfil our aim to create a fairer, more prosperous and sustainable economy and maximise delivery of housing that is affordable, then we need to plan around these large sites. Sites that will attract infrastructure investment and create CIL and Section 106 contributions in a quantum that really benefits the existing communities. So the sites identified were Hicksgate, Keynsham North, west of Bath, and Somer Valley above Midsummer Norton. Now, these sites are not without their challenges, but the West of England's emerging growth strategy is focusing on the A4 corridor between Bristol and Bath and on the Somer Valley. And that means that the infrastructure investment planned for these regionally important sites can also unlock housing for our residents. And this is the first time we've really been in this position, that communities like Keynsham and Saltburn Village, Radstock, Westfield, Midsummer Norton are recognised as regionally important sites for growth, and that we may be able to secure vital infrastructure investment up front. So we'll be working closely with the new regime at the Combined Authority to try and achieve this. And our residents have been telling us exactly what sort of housing they need, including the necessary type and scale of new homes to respond to the district's social and economic needs, including homes for young families, older people, essential local workers, students, supported accommodation for residents, young and old, with health and social care needs, gypsies, travellers, boat dwellers, and also provision for self-build dwellings. We're also taking the opportunity to update some of our existing development management policies and consult on some new ones, such as a retrofit first policy, which may help to protect some of our heritage assets, and a new approach to HMOs, which proposes a ban on the conversion of affordable family homes in Bath, because, of course, Bath presents us with some unique challenges, problems that no other city in the country faces, particularly the green setting that is part of the World Heritage listing, or the double World Heritage listing, a green margin around our city that really forbids sustainable growth. Well, it forbids any growth, really. So, for instance, if an affordable home is converted to an HMO, we can't replace it. There is nowhere now in the city to build houses. Hence, a new policy direction to sit alongside our existing policy direction. We've got to stop the loss of this housing stock from the city. Baines has 6,000 people on the housing waiting list, some 500 of whom at any one time might be in crisis. And it is often the case that a family in crisis could get offered temporary accommodation in Bristol, away from schools, away from family in Baines. So we have to find a way of delivering more affordable and social housing, a much larger percentage of social rental, and we've got to do it sooner rather than later. Rightly or wrongly, we have a market-led development system, and the market will always need to build at a profit in order to subsidise their affordable quota. Hence, you end up with a large number of units that we have to build to get the affordable that we need. Now, you may be of the opinion, and I've heard this, that we'll never build this many homes. There aren't enough bricks or bricklayers, there aren't enough trades or plant for it to ever happen. Well, in terms of training and skills, that's really a matter for WECA and the government. But I am not prepared to turn round to anyone on our housing waiting list and say, sorry, we couldn't build you a home, it was just all too difficult. We have a pressing need to provide homes, the homes that our people desperately need. And I recall the young man from Midsummer Norton who came in and sat in here to address Cabinet a year or so ago. He was off to uni from Norton Hill. He wondered whether there was any point in trying to come back here. Would there be a job for him in Bath and North East Somerset? Would he be able to find anywhere to live, and even if there was a job? So let's not fail our young people. Let's plan for their future so that they can flourish here. Let's plan for jobs, let's plan for homes, because we all stand to win if we do. So overall, we agree with the government that there is a housing shortfall as well as an affordability crisis. And I would suggest that we as an administration are ambitious for our region as well as for our residents. So we share that desire for growth. We want to make our positive contribution to our region, the West of England, and we want our young people to be living and working in Baines and leading that charge. The options document sets out our proposed policy changes and all the development site options to try and meet the government's housing challenge. With your agreement, Cabinet, we can now put these ideas out to residents for consultation. We can begin to gather that local knowledge about the suitability of sites and all our other ideas. We need to build the right houses in the right places. So I move an updated recommendations as shown on the screen, which also includes the list of corrections to errata in Appendix 1, so that this is all open for consultation on the 3rd of October. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe. Councillor Ruby, the second, please.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, can I thank Councillor McCabe and his officers for the amount of work they have done to get us into this position. And to add to his speech, there are a few things that I'd like to flag. We're aiming to make this consultation the easiest to engage with and one which solicits the views of the highest number and widest range of respondents. The town and parish councils have so far been invaluable in helping us to get information out and to get local intelligence back, and we trust that this will continue to flourish. In addition, we will actively seek out those who don't traditionally respond to council consultations. For the younger in our community, it is their future that we are talking about, so we will make every effort to ensure that they are heard. For those without a home, either rented or owned, they need to say where the right homes in the right places would be for them. For those who don't own or have access to a car, which is around 20% of our population, how can we ensure that they have the right choice of transport options to have access to places of employment, education and healthcare? And for those with a car, how can we ensure that they use it when completely necessary, but are really free and able to choose other options when viable? What ends up in our local plan will determine how our area and the communities within it will look and function over the next 20 years. And although a lot of the focus will rightly be on housing numbers and where those houses will be, the plan does cover far more than that. I am getting slightly ahead of where we currently are. Today, what we're being asked to do is approve going out to consultation on all the available development options. Nothing in this document infers that we as an administration want to build on any of these options, or that those which are, according to the current DFT data, better connected, are in any way a priority to be developed. Other sites may well be preferable, as long as the infrastructure is built to support more residents. And of course, developers will have their own largely financial reasons for wanting to deliver in some areas rather than others. This is where I go back to the start of my comments. Our programme of public engagement. I'm really pleased with some of the new ideas the team have come up with to help reach out to the community. This includes the van with a plan, which is a converted ice cream van which will be touring the area to host drop-in sessions, publicise the consultation, facilitate and encourage participation. There may not be quite the 99 stops on the tour, but we will publish a constantly updating list of the many, many areas we're visiting on the consultation website. I commend the Office for the work they've done on this and wish them all the luck on their roadshow over the next 6 weeks, commencing from October the 3rd. I'd like to think that everything we do as a council and as a cabinet has some importance to someone in our district. And one of my most treasured emails is one thanking me not for changing the world, but for doing a bit of work which changed the world for them. What we are doing today resets a process which ultimately will significantly impact on the future world in Baines, and I second the paper in front of us.
Thank you, Councillor Rigby. The paper has been moved. The Secretary will move to the debates. Councillor May.
Thank you, Chair. As been said, the more than doubled housing target represents an enormous challenge for Baines. I fully support the proposed strategy of focusing development on 4 large sites to help unlock investment and benefit communities, as outlined by Councillor McCabe. Villages in North East Somerset are a vital part of our community and the character of our district. I can't help but speak as ward councillor for Publow and Whitchurch, as well as a cabinet member, but I feel certain I'm voicing concerns that residents in other villages may also have. I share my residents' concerns about sites around Whitchurch Village, which have been put forward by developers. These sites are not all suitable and do not fit in with the large site strategy. But this level of growth would transform the character of Whitchurch Village from a village into a town. The housing target has been calculated in response to the relative unaffordability of housing in Bath. We know Bath has many constraints which limit the options to deliver housing. Only about half of the need can be delivered in the city, plus possibly 1,000 to 17,000 new homes at the west of Bath. This leaves a significant number of additional homes to be found in other areas. However, additional housing in Whitchurch would do nothing to address this affordability crisis. It's not a suitable alternative for those priced out of Bath. For example, travel between Whitchurch and Bath is car dependent, as the journey times are doubled by public transport, with sparse buses looping around through the Soma Valley. As a cabinet member, this is one of those times of challenge when loyalty to residents who have supported and elected me comes into conflict with my corporate duties. It is right that we should consult on all aspects consistently with communities across Bath and North East Somerset, respecting our commitment to retain vibrant villages and put the right houses in the right places. I will support the options document tonight to ensure we can move forward having a sound local plan. We all know that this is essential as protection against speculative applications on unsuitable sites should be avoided. And I'll be working with my residents to ensure we have excellent responses to the consultation to help ensure the Council has the evidence based upon sound planning principle against unsuitable sites. Looking back at the core strategy, Whitchurch already grew by 50% due to the boundary review of the Greenbelt then. As before, my role as a local member will be fighting for my village to retain its village status. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor May. Well said. Councillor Warren.
Yes, whilst it has clearly been difficult finding space for the many additional houses that the new government target for Baines requires, resetting the local plan this year does have one advantage. It gives us another chance to further build upon our existing position of leadership amongst local planning authorities in relation to district-wide development policy supporting our response to the climate and nature emergencies. Chapter 9 outlines our plans to update our development management policy options. Since our local plan partial update, adopted in 2023, Baines has held a leading position already requiring zero carbon new build, i.e. building to the highest standards of energy efficiency, and having been an early adopter of biodiversity net gain of 10%, which means requiring that nature is 10% healthier after a development takes place on a particular site than it was before. Now we're proposing to go further and require 20% gain. We've already heard from Councillor McCabe about the retrofit first policy that requires serious consideration of renovation before knocking down and rebuilding. In this new options consultation, we are also proposing adopting a policy on adaptation, so requiring the likely vulnerability of proposed development to the future effects of climate change to be taken into account. So that might be about adapting for changing flood risk, or perhaps incorporating for natural shading and ventilation to reduce the risk of overheating. Then we have a proposed district heating policy which runs ahead of government's plans in this area, with the potential to reduce carbon emissions from home heating by requiring developments built near an existing heat network to connect to it, where a new development will generate a lot of heat, for example through an industrial process. Waste heat is proposed to be reused for heating homes, and where cost-effective in decarbonising heat, a new network should always be considered. In a district with many constraints of different sorts on the development of significant renewable installations, we've identified 3 sites with the greatest potential for this technology, in the knowledge that we require a significant increase in capacity. And from a nature perspective, I'm thrilled to see a long-awaited proposal around regenerative farming, providing a clear framework for applicants and decision makers. I'd also like to mention just a word about Coombe Down allotments, where I understand that land that is currently in use as allotments already benefits from strong protection in local planning policy, being designated in policy as allotments. But as part of the draft local plan, which is the next stage in this process, I, for one, will be pushing our officers hard to look at designating this area as a local green space. So all in all, whilst we are having to consider some difficult options in terms of finding space for a huge amount of housing, there are positives from an environmental point of view in going through this process. So I support the proposal.
Thank you very much, Councillor Warren. Councillor Hurst. Thank you, Councillor Hurst. I think there may have been some online issues there, but we all heard you fine. Nobody else has indicated to speak, so Councillor McCabe, would you like to sum up, please?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, colleagues, for your contributions. Yes, this is very ambitious. It has to be, because of the housing numbers that we've been tasked to achieve by government. And the housing numbers, again, then dictate the job requirements, very, very demanding on the available space. And don't forget, Bath and North East Somerset, you've got a double inscribed World Heritage City. You've got the Cotswolds National Landscape, the Mendip National Landscape, vast areas of Greenbelt, and yet somehow we have to find the space to build houses and provide jobs and all the other infrastructure that goes with communities. And it's not without its controversies, as we've heard. but also it maintains us as leaders in the realm of climate policies. So there is much to take away from it, as well as much that is quite daunting in it. So it's vital now that we hear from residents. It's really important we get all this out into the public domain now, and that local residents have their opportunity to feed their comments in, kicking off on the 3rd of October for 6 weeks. And again, I just wanted to add my thanks to officers for all the work they've done. Thanks to the Regen team for helping the policy office with the consultation, and they'll be out in the vintage ice cream van. But also thanks to some of our partners who've also been engaged in that consultation, that early engagement process, to hear from those voices who really need housing. And now, Chair, it's over to them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's hope the ice cream van whips up enthusiasm for it. That's the best I'm going to do on that one. It's been moved and seconded. We'll move to the electronic vote, please. That is unanimous. I'd just like to reinstate the importance for people that are listening and for those towns and parish councils to get this message out. The greater the engagement will improve the quality of information received back, which will help us make our final case for the local plan. So I can't stress the importance of quality engagement. So everybody who's listening, please, please, please do take part in this consultation. Thank you. Right, we'll move on to item 10, the movement strategy. Councillor Hurst to move, please.
Thank you, Chair. This report asks us to approve the development of the movement strategy and to agree the proposed arrangements for public consultation. This is the product of work that Councillor Sarah Warren started 2 years ago, or beyond 2 years, and officers have worked hard to deliver. Our administration's priorities include leadership on the climate emergency and listening to residents. We are committed to providing and enabling more travel choices. The movement strategy provides the framework for delivering our journey to net zero ambitions. As we know, traffic congestion, air pollution all impact on our residents' health, as well as many aspects of day-to-day life, such as the quality of our places, our heritage, business and so on. Transport also accounts for over 30% of our carbon emissions. The increasing housing targets we just talked about will make this even more challenging. Considering journeys in Bath, we have shown in the work we're bringing forward that 36% of journeys are within Bath, 40% of journeys are to and from Bath, and 24% of journeys just go straight through Bath. We have a high proportion of people who choose to walk, wheel and cycle while travelling within the Bath area, but we can do more. And however, we also have the challenge that over 80% of journeys to and from Bath or through Bath are done by motorised vehicles. There are 292,000 car trips every day in Bath. That's getting on for 1,250,000 per day. If we do nothing, this will increase by at least 7% in 10 years. The strategy provides an opportunity to rebalance the traffic network to better serve its residents, its businesses and its visitors. We need to improve our air quality, reduce greenhouse gases, improve the conditions for walking, wheeling and cycling, improve the high-quality alternatives to car trips, reduce congestion and enable buses to flow better. All of this will help support residents' health, not only by reducing air pollution, but also encouraging active travel, which will deliver many health benefits across the board. The movement strategy provides the framework to address these needs. Put more simply, the vision is a virtuous circle of quality places, improved travel choices and reduced traffic. And to get to this point, the officers have done an enormous amount of work analysing the evidence, reviewing what has worked elsewhere, providing a vision of what the future could look like, and developing a list of potential levers or high-level interventions that aren't all definite, but they are options to investigate, and for a latter choice about which levers to pull and how hard to pull on them. We now want to engage with the public to get our residents' views on the work and affirm that our community wants to go on a 10-year journey of quality places, improved travel choices and reduced traffic. There are a number of proposals, short, medium and long-term measures to drive this potential decade of change, of evolution on the way we move. Local government has scarce resource. These pieces of work will help make us sure that they're allocated as effectively as possible. The movement strategy highlights our support of wider regional interventions, and it also will help us secure investment from WECA and others for larger schemes, such as the proposed mass transit options, the improved strategic rail travel corridors, the improved rail networks with new stations, and improved travel interchanges, building on the successes of our park and ride sites. The benefit of the strategy includes better travel to work options, improved pedestrian safety, improved mobility in the city centre for all, those who have disabilities and those who want to leave their cars at home. Better parking, more reliable bus networks, prioritised bus corridors, better real-time travel information, expanded EV charging infrastructure, better experience for all and improved coach management. Cabinet, the report before you asks for support on recommendations 2.1 to 2.5, support the development of the strategy, agreeing the objectives of creating quality places, improving travel choices and reduce traffic, approve the consultation process from the 14th of October to the 28th of November alongside the local plan, and engages. After engagement, we will then bring back, after updates and reflection, a strategy with the aim of launching that in the spring of next year. So I'd like to move.
Thank you, Councillor Hurst. Councillor Warren, a second, please.
So this afternoon we're taking the next steps, as we've heard, on a hugely important piece of work, the culmination of several years' work, beginning in 2019 with our first Climate Emergency Progress Report to Council. This placed transport firmly amongst the top 3 contributors to global heating across Bath and North East Somerset. That was then followed by Journey to Net Zero, adopted by Cabinet in May 2022, which identified an array of mechanisms that could be used to reduce carbon emissions from transport for traffic entering the city, including creation of a circulation plan. In February this year, we adopted Creating Sustainable Communities in North East Somerset, which similarly proposed a future vision for travel in and around our North East Somerset market towns and larger villages. I'm delighted now that Councillor Hurst has picked up the baton from me and is moving forward with the movement strategy this afternoon. It is the evolution of the proposed circulation plan, a piece of work unashamedly focused on planning for the future of our world-renowned heritage city, and it also provides crucial benefits to people from North East Somerset and the other rural areas and market towns for which Bath is a commercial, educational and healthcare hub. As we've already heard, transport is responsible for over 30% of carbon emissions in Baines, in line with the rest of the UK. It's an area of emissions which nationwide is proving really intractable to reduce, and Baines is no exception. However, having a movement strategy is about so much more than carbon dioxide, which sometimes feels remote and abstract as we can't see or smell it. The prize is great. Over the next 10 years or so, if we succeed in our overarching objective of offering real choice of transport modes to residents and visitors going about their daily activities, we'll see a reduction in hours lost to both business and families from sitting in congestion. We want to enable a real choice of modes for those for whom alternatives to the car are an option, and reduce traffic on our streets for those whose only option is the car. It is about having a vibrant future vision for our city, which means our beautiful heritage buildings will no longer be as subject to damage from air pollution or viewed solely as the backdrop to a thoroughly modern traffic jam. We'll make pleasanter spaces to pass time in, We'll see more footfall and spend on our high streets, as evidence has shown time and again that those travelling to the shops on foot, by bike and on public transport spend more time and money on their visit. We'll see increases in health and well-being, whether from reduced pollution or from enabling people to build physical activity and enjoyment of some of our city's many beautiful green spaces into their daily life, for example, as part of their commute to work or school, and will be one of a small group of cities leading the UK with high aspirations to make active travel and public transport the obvious first choices for all those travelling within, to and through our city. So on that note, I'm delighted to second the paper.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Very well said. I'll move to the debate. Lucy?
Thank you very much, colleagues. As Cabinet Member for Delivery of Sustainable Transport, I'm very pleased that our administration will be developing a movement strategy in consultation with our residents in the coming months. In terms of our ambitious plans to deliver measures to enable travel choices, particularly walking, wheeling and cycling, I welcome this strategy. It will provide a comprehensive framework within which to prioritise our activity and, importantly, make sure that all our schemes link up. The emphasis is quite rightly on enhancing quality of life for everyone. This strategy is coming at just the right time. Moving around our city over the past year, I've noticed an explosion in residents and visitors walking, wheeling and particularly cycling. Those with travel choices are already making the right ones, both in terms of their own health and in benefiting the environment. I'm confident that development of this strategy is timely and that the final document will be inspiring and well received. I support this proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Hodge. Councillor McCabe.
Thank you, Chair. I think, we started this meeting hearing from David about the importance of transport and how that dovetails with the local plan. When the conversations I've had, particularly say in Soma Valley, when you talk about the sort of level of housing we've got to deliver, the first question is, how are we going to get into, how are all these extra people going to get into Bath? So I think it's timely that we have this focus and this opportunity for local people to respond and identify the travel issues that they encounter on a day-to-day basis and want us to help with. And I would encourage everyone to get involved with feeding back into this strategy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe. Councillor May.
Chair, thank you. As you know, I'm the Cabinet Member for Children's Services, and I'm delighted that we've started doing trials around school streets, because that reduces the movement of traffic, particularly in Bath. And under those circumstances, I think we'd like to see that picked up in the strategy moving forward, because it is something that can be really, really important. I live in a rural area, and I see the Land Rovers and cars coming to school, and that perhaps is inevitable, but when you get in an urban area, you should be able to come up with solutions which fit that urban area more effectively in the future. So I think we'll be promoting the concept of school streets within this strategy moving forward, and I very much support it. I think it's a great step forward, Chair.
Councillor Mac, thank you very much. Very, very good point indeed. It's been moved and seconded. We shall move to the vote, please. That is unanimous, eventually. Yes, great. That brings us to the end of the meeting. Thank you, everybody, for attending and watching online. Thank you very much.